Hi, I'm Ron Poisel. I just wanted to report to you what we did at our beer church last evening. I'm going to tell you the parable and then share some of the insights that we discussed. The parable is from Mark chapter 12, verses 1 through 9. It's about a man who planted a vineyard and put a fence around it, and then he dug a pit for the wine press and built a watchtower and leased it to tenants and went to another country. And when the season came for him to receive his share of the produce from the vineyard, he sent a slave. And they seized him and beat him and sent him away empty-handed. So he sent another slave, and they beat him on the head and insulted him. And so he sent another slave, and they killed him. And so it was with many others, that some they beat up and some they killed. And then he had only one left, who was his beloved son, and he sent him, saying that, well, they'll respect my son. But when the tenants saw it, they said, this is the heir, and if we kill him, we will own the land as an inheritance. And so they seized him, and they killed him, and they threw him out of the vineyard. And, well, what will the owner of the vineyard do? Well, he'll destroy those tenants and give the vineyard to others. Now, I encourage you to tell that parable to yourself several times. It's kind of a simple one, and you can remember it, practice it, and as you tell it, try to listen as a person in the first century might have heard it from Mark the first time that was told. And as you do, you would understand that if a son was being sent to collect the produce, that would mean that, well, they assumed that his father was probably dead in the other country. And if they killed the son, then there would be no heir and there would be no owner, and the property would go to the people that were living on it. As you would interpret this parable being toward the religious leaders of the temple, are they saying then that maybe God is dead, and that to kill the Son of God would mean that they would be able to control the kingdom of God? Certainly something to think about. The people who would have heard it for the first time would have been hearing it around AD 70, after the temple in Jerusalem had been destroyed by the Romans. Hundreds of thousands of Jews were killed. Many others were driven out of the city and out of the region. And they would have understood that it was because of the cultic Jewish religious people that now the vineyard, the kingdom of God, was being turned over to others, being the church. So what would be the produce of the vineyard as the church would work in? And in Galatians chapter 5, Paul talks about the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And that was the calling of the church then, to share that love of Christ with others. In the same way now, in our era, we too have received the vineyard. And we are called to care for the vineyard, God's world, and think about what kind of fruit we produce and share in the world, and what might be some of our goals in order to be good stewards of the vineyard that God has given us. I invite you to think about it and like and post and share your views with others. Our next Beer Church will be in 2 weeks, and we will be looking at the resurrection story in Matthew chapter 28. God bless.